Hey, everybody. Welcome to Game Mess Mornings with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about what the hell is going on with Crimson Desert, and another first-party PlayStation game makes its jump to the Nintendo Switch. It's going to be a good one because we have Jan Ochoa on the show 2 days in a row. Jan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Grubb, despite not celebrating Sandwich Wednesday.
I failed as well. I believe I had a sandwich the day before, so I just wanted to I'm going to count that towards my Sandwich Wednesday.
You were celebrating Sandwich Wednesday by having a preemptive sandwich, and I think that's better.
I also I did the patriotic Sandwich Wednesday thing, and I watched a video about how people in New Orleans are better at using the baguette than anyone in France, and they're very proud of that. They're like, we make po' boys, we make banh mi's and stuff. It's like, yeah, you guys know what you're doing down there.
Let's keep sticking it to the French. They don't.
Yeah.
The beef has ended quite a while ago.
But step it up. Yeah, you've invented this thing. Let's use it in some cool ways.
Yeah.
Baguettes are delicious.
I'm going to say it. I think we do fries better as well. I think a lot of places do fries better, actually.
Yeah, I think they just take it on it's in our name, so we don't have to try. You got to try. Come on, France.
Please.
What are you doing?
Please try.
How you doing otherwise, Jan? You hanging in there? You got your coffee? You good to go?
Grubb, there's a lot of things coming out. Emails every hour about here's a new code for this thing. Hey, do you want this appointment at GDC? I'm like, I'll try.
Right, exactly. I'm like, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not even exactly sure how to navigate GDC. It's been so long since I've been there, so I'm kind of trying to keep it pretty chill.
When was the last time you went?
Long time ago. It was before Emmy was born, so it must have been about 11 years ago. 10 to 11 years ago. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. I remember enjoying it. And I'll be there, everybody. So I'll at least be there through the first half of the week. So if you see me, say hi. If you're listening, you're in the industry and you're going to be there. Very cool. But yeah, beyond that, you're right. It's like, okay, people asking for time at GDC, and then a lot of studios are just like, yeah, we're launching our game right now. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that one. I was going to check that out, and then a bunch of other ones I'm getting more curious about. That what is it? I have Steam open right here. Let me just take a look. It's one that Will was reminding me existed.
Oh yeah, that looked interesting.
Yeah, it's the Legend of Kimori. It's that delivery. It looks like it takes place in Mongolia. I have not looked any closer than that, but it looks like a delivery game set in Mongolia where you're on horseback with a bow, and it's like, oh, that looks really cool. I want to spend time with that. Yeah, horse game, but I gotta play Docked, which we'll talk about, of course.
Ooh.
All right. Let's get into it, everybody. Let's explain ourselves. We're Giant Bomb. We're independent games media. We need your help. You got to go to giantbomb.com/join, become a premium member to ensure we can keep making the stuff we want to make. More people are joining every day, and we are so grateful and thankful to you for doing so. It makes all the difference in the world for us over here. We want to keep doing stuff our way, and we could tell you want us to keep doing our stuff our way. So show up, drop that cash, and we'll keep doing it. If you can't, don't worry, tell a friend. And then if you do, you get ad-free shows. You're going to get Marry Me Tomodachi. We're recording a new episode today. You're not going to want to miss the best dating show on the internet. It also gets you Grub Snacks Premium, which I do still need to record for this week, but that plan is I'll do that today. And a bunch of other stuff. We're working on all kinds of things. 9 Lives of Mr. Mistopheles. This is The Run. We're doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire right now. A new episode of that just went up yesterday. We'll have, of course, that's The Run. So who knows when we'll have another episode.
Yeah.
In the meantime, though, everybody, thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. As far as this show goes, most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Docked reviews. It's my show, Jan. I'm just going to do things how I want. This is the new game from Saber where it's like one of their sim games, but it's got like a little bit more going on in terms of like not just being a sim. There's like voice acting and stories and stuff like that like characters you'll interact with. And it's about running a dockyard. So you got one of those big cranes and you're taking stuff off the ships, you're putting it onto the dock and you're loading it into the country. I'm going to play this. It has a 78 on OpenCritic right now, but generally positive sentiment from a lot of these reviews. 7.5 out of 10 from Fraser Billington at Gamer Social Club. Dock is a solid next step in the sim category for Saber Interactive. I loved every second learning about all the new machinery and how best to use it. The introduction of a story was a nice touch with that a lot of simulation games don't have. The few performance issues didn't take away from the fun I had with Docked. However, the lack of continuing to play after I finished was a bit of a letdown. Working so hard to get my port fully upgraded and not being able to really use it. And that seems to be like the key thing here, which people are like, I'm enjoying this game. Mm-hmm. It feels like there's something like missing there, like as a culmination at the end. And it's like, it sounds like that's kind of hurting people or hurting people's estimation of the game when it comes time to actually score this thing. But 85 from Asmir Kovacevic. Yeah, Kovacevic. There we go.
Ooh.
At Altchar. Docked turned out to be the exact opposite of what I expected. What I initially dismissed as another. I'm not looking at chat. I knew I shouldn't during this, so I'm sure they're having fun. Dock turned out to be the exact opposite of what I expected. What I initially dismissed as just another simulator ended up being a surprisingly interesting experience backed by strong writing, solid voice acting, and a gameplay loop that is dangerously addictive. I love all of Saber's games like this, Mudrunner, SnowRunner, Expeditions. They're going to be doing their version of an American Truck Simulator here pretty soon. That looks very promising. Again, it has these story elements where you're, very, very like light RPG stuff of talking to characters, getting jobs. And that stuff always worked really well, even early on in something like Mudrunner, Jan, where it's like, hey, there was a big flood in this town in Michigan. Go get a truck together and start working with the people there to rebuild the town. And it always felt like, I have this purpose to the stuff I like doing in these simulation games. And it just gave it a little bit more meaning. So I'm happy to hear this game is kind of getting into the high 70s. One thing I would say about Saber's games in this genre, they get a ton of support.
Yeah.
So this primary criticism of the game, like kind of falling off right at the end, I hope that gets addressed. It's no excuse. Like, people should be mindful as they're going to spend their money, but I hope, and I'm pretty confident that they're going to come in with more stuff here pretty soon and improve the game.
Yeah, I'm confident in that. Grubb, these games generally aren't for me, but I appreciate when they do review well because that means they are landing amongst its audience very well. And sometimes I think, like, who is even playing these games? But then I remember I went through a phase during the pandemic where there was a fishing show about catching big tuna that I fell in love with. So I can 100% see the fascination in playing these styles of games. Also, that trucking game that you were talking about, Grubb, I think I smell a feature.
Oh, we'll have some fun with that. I think it's time we get back in those trucks. I'm missing truck driver Jeff Bacalar that we kind of just met very briefly when we played some of, I think it was Expeditions. I'm pretty sure it was Expeditions. Yeah. Oh, no, that was Roadcraft, actually.
Roadcraft.
Which is another great one. They know what they're doing with these. They've like found their own niche off to the side from something like an American Truck Simulator or a farming simulator. And their tone always works really well. Saber's got a ton of studios, but they are marked as the developer of this game. It's Saber Interactive as developer and publisher. So again, pretty confident they'll come at it with the same kind of support that they did for Mudrunners and SnowRunners.
Grubb, I believe they're called, I think they're illegal, at least here in California, but I believe they're called a suicide, which is that attachment that you put on a wheel that is like the ball that lets you just use that to turn the steering wheel around. I feel like in another life you would have that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I know what you mean. Like suicide something. I can't remember what it is exactly, but yeah. I've always wanted one of those. That's basically how I drive anyhow. One hand kind of pretending it's on one of those things. All right. Other reviews, WWE 2K26 reviews came in way higher than I was expecting, especially after doing that quick look, right, Jan, with Dan. That's up now, right? People could check that out. Mm-hmm. If you are skeptical of that game, our quick look is the one to watch. 83 on OpenCritic. It's got 4 stars from Chris Scullion at VGC, who says, WWE 2K26 offers another net gain over its predecessor, ensuring the series continues to evolve in a positive direction. While its new reversal system will initially divide players, and the specter of microtransactions continues to loom over my faction, the overall package introduces more quality of life features to ensure each of its numerous modes is better than it was last time. 8 out of 10 from Jack Valentine at DualShockers. CM Punk's showcase is an excellent presentation, and My Rise is another successful story. Overall, WWE 2K26 is still another solid entry in the 2K franchise, but I can't help but wonder where it could have landed. It reminded me of the recent, and he goes on to talk about that LA Knight spot from Elimination Chamber, where he had the crowd in the palm of his hand, and then he slipped a little bit, and he's like, people still were on his side. He was still over, but it's like, what could have been? And it's like, okay, I could kind of see that. There's people who like these games, obviously. And the last one was the most well-received until now, this one. For me, Jim, when I'm looking at this thing, as someone who's kind of played it a little bit and almost never in any real, I've never like played any of the story showcase modes or things like that. I'll play some multiplayer with friends. The core wrestling is just not fun to me.
No.
And I wonder if people are like, well, this is just what wrestling games are. So as long as I like all the stuff around it, I'm going to forgive. Like, is it Stockholm syndrome? Have they been held hostage by WWE so long that they're just kind of going along with it? It's probably not that. They probably legitimately like it. It's just hard for me to see that because I so dislike what I see from this game.
Yeah, 100%, Grubb. Despite the vibes being rancid with the WWE, and like I don't feel good watching the product at all anymore.
Bring Back Brock Lesnar is like, there's several bridges too far. Sit somewhere else. That one is so far beyond the pale. It's unacceptable.
And almost like bringing him back with a wink and a nod, saying like, "Oh, we did it anyway." Fuck off.
Fuck off.
But the games themselves, I just have not vibed or meshed with them at all. The wrestling component, like you said, Grubb, doesn't feel fun. It feels very clunky. It doesn't feel like a smooth sports game, even with what I feel like they've always had this trouble of trying to appeal to these systems heavy people that want all of these random little mini games during the wrestling match, and then someone that just wants to pick it up and play a something like a fighting game. And I don't know where these WWE 2K games are trying to ride that line, because also on top of the wrestling not being for me, there's so much in these games, Grubb, that is definitely not for me. I suggest people do check out the quick look, because you can check out the batshit insane card super card stuff that they have in there, as well as like the weird Mortal Kombat style island mode that also does not seem particularly fun.
No.
And it's interesting, Grubb, you were talking about like these people, maybe they have the Stockholm syndrome, because sometimes I feel that way with Pokemon games, right? Where a lot of people will excuse a lot of inconsistencies and the game's falling short because they've made improvements in other and made strides in other aspects of it. But for me personally, like, you can only excuse so much, so many times. And I'm very surprised to see this game reviewed that highly, because I think all three of us on that quick look were fairly willing to give it a shot. But then even just from watching it being played, and the visual inconsistencies of the models being up and down in terms of quality. Bad. Yeah, right? Like, if CM Punk is your poster child for this game, shouldn't his models be extra good? And like one of them was like terrible.
Yep. It's so weirdness there. You know, and I it sounds like the people who like this game, there's a couple of factions, and it is the people who really enjoy the GM mode and My Rise, and then maybe there's maybe like one other mode that I'm just forgetting. Again, I haven't really played much of this game, and it sounds like they like any mode where they can be creative. Like as if they are not a shoot wrestler, but like behind kayfabe, and like they can, you know, Dan was telling a story about how the guys over at what is it? The
New Legacy.
New Legacy. That's right. New Legacy is the wrestling channel, where like they were calling out spots and doing like actually working with each other to kind of make a cool looking wrestling match. And I'm like, okay, I can see that, but that feels like I want to get to that point eventually. I want all the stuff from here to getting to that point to be fun as well, to sort of onboard me into being creative. That's like a game like Hitman is what I think of in a situation like that, where there is all this stuff where you can make your own levels or like send levels to friends or try these fun challenges and that you create on your own, and that you make your own fun. But everything up to that point is also extremely fun, and you can play in a variety of different ways. And if you take it seriously, it works. And if you try to be goofy, it works. And it's like the WWE experience is just like, okay, you'll find the thing that you think is fun, and the rest of it might be straight up trash to you. And it's like, that's rough, especially as we're like looking at the price of this game. When you get up into any of those higher tier, $150, and to see so many things still locked behind microtransactions after spending $150 on this game, it was very easy to be like, anything that was bothering me is now sort of nuclear, and I just want to walk away. And that's before, of course, I don't want to play this game anyhow because it's the WWE. And fuck the WWE.
We were near the tail end of the quick look, folks. We were thumbing through the roster, and sometimes like that is the most fun in a WWE quick look, is just thumbing through the roster, seeing what wrestlers are available, also seeing like what power ranking they have this year. But there were so many that are locked behind in different battle passes or different modes. So if you are spending $150 and you can't get to your favorite wrestler from the jump, it just leaves an incredibly bad taste in my mouth.
Yep. All right, let's keep going here. Those are the reviews that popped off today. That's why we talk about it, everybody. It's a news show. It's how it works. Ubisoft gives updates on Assassin's Creed franchise, including Hex and Invictus, alongside Black Flag remake tease. This is from Wesley LeBlanc at Game Informer. Last week, Ubisoft appointed 3 developers to a new leadership team in charge of the Assassin's Creed franchise, including making Assassin's Creed 4's and Assassin's Creed Origins creative director Jan Guzden, the new head of content for the series. I'm going to get these names right eventually. Now, Ubisoft has delivered an overview of the Assassin's Creed series from Guzden that details updates on Assassin's Creed Shadows, Assassin's Creed Codename Hex, Assassin's Creed Codename Invictus, and more, alongside a tease of a remake of Assassin's Creed 4. For Shadows, it launched on last year on March 20th, so it's approaching its 1-year anniversary. They said they'll have more surprises in store for that game. For Codename Hex, which is like the next big game from them, it's the one that takes place in the Holy Roman Empire. This is the one that creative director Guzden is working on directly. He says he's promising something unique, darker, and narrative-driven for the Assassin's Creed, for kind of a fresh Assassin's Creed experience. Is that something that entices you, or can anything entice you into Assassin's Creed at this point? I'm always willing to check one out, but it's like, I don't know until I see it, really.
Yeah, I liked Shadows well enough, and I think I'm just more of a fan. What was the one set in London with the 2 twins?
That was Syndicate.
Syndicate. I think Syndicate was like the last one I really enjoyed. Vinny had started up on the website, and then I picked it up on my own time. I don't know if I trust Ubisoft is the problem, Grubb.
Yep. People who liked Shadow really like Shadow. Yeah. Shadows, I think, plural. And they have kind of gone back and forth between, hey, here's Mirage, more like the old ones. Here's the ones that are much more RPG. Sometimes more, sometimes less RPG, but often a lot more. And I don't know. I see an Assassin's Creed, and a lot of it is going to be based on the setting and the character. If I think those things are cool, I'll at least maybe glance at it. And that's like glance. I'm probably not even going to play. Shadows, I got around, I tried, played for a few hours, got what I wanted out of it. Was like doing one of those situations where it's like, oh, I get it. I don't need to play anymore to get more of it. And that's where that franchise is at for me. So when I hear this stuff, it's like, I don't know if that's going to win me over, but it sounds like the kind of thing that people who are super into Assassin's Creed and have the tattoos and played the games, and there are a lot of those people out there, this sounds like something that might get them excited. I don't know for sure. There's other stuff from Assassin's Creed, though. Codename Invictus is the PvP multiplayer experience that's being led by the former For Honor veterans at Ubisoft Montreal. Interesting, right? There were rumors, Jan, that this was going to be a Fall Guys-like game. Apparently that's not real. At least he says in this like write-up, the rumors out there about what this game is are wrong, is basically what he says. Okay. And that seems like a direct target at this idea that it was going to be an Assassin's Creed Fall Guys game. Jan, I think that sounds fun. I think that sounds absurd, and I would love to see that be real. But hey, give the For Honor team a chance as well, right?
Yeah, For Honor is one of those games, Grubb, that I've always been super curious about checking out. Like, I've wanted to. It has always looked enticing, and that's not just because of the Eric Pope of it all.
Of course.
But For Honor, it just seems like I'll see games on my like algorithms, just clips of them, but clips from For Honor always look the coolest.
Yeah, I like For Honor's look a lot. I enjoyed playing that game. It was not one I got into as like, oh, this is one of my hobby games, but definitely one that I respected and was like, oh, that went for a long time. It must have found its audience. And that's saying something. In that moment, it wasn't like a guarantee that a game like that would be able to find its player base. And It did, and that's because that team knew what they were doing. So giving them another chance to sort of explore multiplayer ideas in a like the safe haven of Assassin's Creed, where it's like that gives you something of a leg up. I'm interested to see what they come up with there. And then they did kind of basically confirm the Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake. They didn't just explicitly say it, but they did everything except for explicitly say it. Guzden did not officially announce or confirm the remake. He did tease its existence by quoting the Assassin mantra and saying, "Some whispers have a little bit more wind in their sails. Keep your spyglass on the horizon." And that's right after he said one of the rumors was wrong. And then he said others have more wind in their sails. They also just like had an official art piece that said Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, which is the rumor name of this game. So it's coming. I would expect to get it announced soon. They also talked about the live action Netflix series being from the producers of Westworld and the Halo show. Okay. Assassin's Creed Unity getting a 60 frames per second patch on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox. That's pretty wild. That's the one before Syndicate that caused everything to start going haywire for them. And then yeah, there's some smaller news. Assassin's Creed, obviously very important to Ubisoft, Jan. For me, it's like, I don't get excited about Assassin's Creed just sort of at a baseline level anymore. It really has to sort of earn it. I wonder if it has enough juice left over to sort of be their crown jewel. What do you think?
For me personally, Grubb, I just feel a lot of exhaustion and fatigue when I think of Assassin's Creed at this point, just because it feels like they have trotted it out as their poster child to carry Ubisoft as a brand. And not that the games have like been bad or anything. It just feels like there's way too many of them. And then now I'm experiencing a little bit of like brand confusion. And also with Ubisoft as a whole, there's already a brewing level of mistrust with them. Mm-hmm. And I just see how they kind of fumbled the bag with a lot of different franchises that they own. They're different miscellaneous IP, but specifically the Prince of Persia one kind of left a very poor taste in my mouth where I'm treating Ubisoft and also mismanagement across the board as well, right, with the Guillemot family, that I am like tentatively looking over at Ubisoft of like, okay, I'll wait for y'all to do your thing.
Could you like? I can imagine a world where Ubisoft got on their shit a few years ago after like looking like a lot of other publishers did, looking at Capcom. And it's like, had they got their shit together and delivered that Splinter Cell remake, they could have started like Splinter Cell's not Resident Evil, but it's not that far away from like having the maybe having a similar effect for Ubisoft, where it's like, we deliver a really good remake, then maybe do a new one, then remake the second game or something like that, bring back Spies versus Mercs in some new free-to-play way as one of the multiplayer things. It's like they just have all these things they could have done, and instead it was like a lot of like befuddling projects, like not Sea of Thieves, the other sailing game that's bad. I want to say Starship Troopers. That's also just wrong. But the one from Ubisoft Singapore, and then there's the like the Prince of Persia thing getting canceled. Skull and Bones. Thank you. Yes. And then Prince of Persia getting canceled, and them talking about just a few weeks ago canceling 3 games, postponing 3 others, or maybe it was like 6 games that got canceled and several others getting postponed. Oh boy, you just did. It's not only did you like miss some awesome opportunities by getting on top of Splinter Cell earlier, which is, I guess, still happening. You fucked everything up so bad that it's like, I just don't get excited about anything you do until it's proven to be excellent. And so far, it's like, at best, it's been very good.
Grubb, we had the talk. I believe it was yesterday on the not yesterday, but on the Bombcast, where Resident Evil Requiem just fulfills that kind of like Hollywood blockbuster role in video games. And I think you're right. Splinter Cell could have been completely filling that void for Ubisoft of like, hey, this is not a gigantic AAA blockbuster like Sony is trying to turn games into.
Right, but is it that far from like a Silent Hill, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, here is this game that is like not an AAA, but this is an A+ game where you are appealing to your Tom Clancy sickos out there, but also just someone diving in and wanting to check out like a cool stealth game.
Yep, yeah. And it's like, but Death Metal, Dan Art and Chess says, I don't think Splinter Cell has the juice. It's like, in this moment it doesn't. But I think they could sort of make it feel like it does to a lot of people. And there's plenty of people who like those games, would be interested to go back. And you kind of make it feel like a big deal. People will treat it like a big deal. At a certain point, you kind of have to just tell people what has the juice and then go on and prove it. I think that's actually been Capcom's strategy, and it's worked for them.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, no more Assassin's Creed talk. Let's talk about what's going on with that Crimson Desert game. We'll get to that after these messages. If you want to skip out on these ads, you can do so. You got to go to giantbomb.com/join. Become a premium member. If you do that there on the website, you can find ad-free versions of the audio show and ad-free versions of the video show. In the meantime, we will be right back. All right, we're back with Game Mess Mornings. Jeff Grubb, Jan Ochoa. Hello. Hi, everybody. We're back. Let's do this. Crimson Desert confirms Pisser 2 on PS5 Pro, but glowing previews are all based on the PC version. This is from Robert Ramsey at Push Square. So, recently, Jan, we've been talking about this game as it gets a lot more hype.
Yes.
Feels like one of those ones that's like done the end around. By that, I mean like, we have not declared as games journalists or media personalities, this is the next game to care about. They have like used the other means of getting people hyped about it, usually like cool clips on social media or whatever, or getting very popular on Reddit. And the mass audience has taken notice of this game because it looks very cool. Some would say it looks too good to be true. And now that's coming to a head a little bit recently because the studio has not shown the game in any real way running on console. And so people are like, hey, when is that going to happen? Well, there's some news there. Let's talk about it. A bunch of previews for Crimson Desert have just dropped, and most are raving about what could be one of the most impressive open world games of the generation. But guess what? We're still waiting on that all-important console footage. PS5 players are currently citing new footage that's taken from the official PlayStation blog, which features a collection of fairly short clips, but there's no clarification of what platform the open world adventure, is actually running on. Concerns over console performance have been rampant, primarily because we're yet to see any uncut gameplay running on anything other than high-end PC. So the PlayStation blog post went up. That's where they talked about it's going to have Pisser 2 tech. It's going to have the new Pisser 2 tech. So it's going to have the same stuff that was in Resident Evil Requiem that helped that game look sharper than ever, using basically the new upscaling tech that's been in like DLSS for the last couple of years. All right, cool. So you go to that blog post expecting to see examples of that, and people seem pretty confident that that is still just the PC version. I don't know if we've had any updates there since I looked earlier this morning. So we're kind of like, oh, okay. Now, we are just coming off of the marketing director over there saying, hey, I've said 100 times, we're going to show console footage before the game comes out, so you have time to pre-order it. It's okay. It's coming out pretty soon. Like, do I have the date here? I had it earlier, but it's coming out pretty soon, like in the next couple of weeks. And we're still waiting on the console footage. Where is like your meter at for concern for this game? Like, I'm not at full blown Cyberpunk 2077 launch fire but I could see that possibly being the case here.
Yeah, I think I'm less of a meter and more of like a pendulum at this point, Grubb, just because every new little thing will swing me back and forth of like to concern to like, just let's see. The lack of console footage is a little bit concerning just for folks that only have access to consoles and are very curious about this game. And then the other aspect of it is, we talked about this yesterday, but this studio primarily being used to making MMOs on the PC. So perhaps console certification is not their strongest forte, and that is something they are dealing with for the first time. So I don't know, Grubb. Also, I'm still confused about what this game really is. Before we started the show, I was still thinking, even though I watched a trailer for this yesterday, that this was a helicopter game.
Yeah, it's not Crimson Desert Strike. It is a follow-up to Black Desert Online, but this one is not an MMO. Mm-hmm. It's an open world action RPG with like a bunch of different gameplay mechanics like stuffed in there, and it's got like a strong, impressive physics system and stuff like that. The reason this game is getting so much attention is because it looks shockingly good. Like the animations look like next level. They look next gen, and the world has a ton of detail in it. And that detail goes on for miles and miles in all directions. And the detail is not just in like the visual specifics, but also in the way the characters move and interact with one another. Mm-hmm. It all feels like, okay, all the money in the world must have gone into making this game. And then it's like, okay, we haven't seen something like that then get delivered on this generation of consoles yet. So it's like, okay, is that even going to be possible? Or at least will it be diminished compared to the video we've seen so far? And we just don't know, because there's just been no other evidence. And the story does mirror Cyberpunk 2077 in a lot of ways, where it's like the early word is review code is not going out for the consoles. It'll just be on PC. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of curious if this game is even going to hit in the way that people are expecting it to in the first place, and then we'll see if it even runs on the consoles in any real way.
Sure.
But yeah, if it does hit, it feels like it's set up to be one of the bigger surprises of this year. You know, this year's Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it could easily deliver that.
I see some folks talking that it's like number 6 on Steam top wish lists right now, and that's huge.
Yes, yeah. Like Dan was saying, like he had a friend who like does not ask about games much, unless it's like the biggest games in the world, and he asked about Crimson Desert. So like it is like gotten out into the wild, and people are wondering about it. I hope it's good. If it is, like, it looks like it could be like one of those magical games that just has this new juice that we haven't seen in games before, and that would be very excellent. I would love that to happen. Kind of light a fire under some of these big publishers, being like, "Why can't you do this as well?"
Yeah.
But we'll have to see.
And I'm all for game development being more global.
Oh, absolutely. It's every time. One of these studios that previously did something where it's like, hey, we are going to spin up our studio to make games in a place where we know we can make money, mobile and MMOs in Asia, or wherever. It's like, yeah, cool. And then they're like, well, yeah, but we all grew up loving these console games or these very specific publishers, and we want to make games like them. It's like, oh, cool. And then they deliver. It's like, oh, you love this stuff and put your whole entire body and heart into it, and it's obvious from the quality. And it's okay, yeah, I want more of studios like that, and they can come from anywhere, and it's kind of better when they come from anywhere. All right, so let's keep going here. MindsEye Studio announces more layoffs as CEO cites organized espionage and criminal sabotage. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. MindsEye Studio Build a Rocket Boy has announced that it will be laying off more staff as its CEO suggested criminal activity played a part in the game's downfall. In a statement on the studio's official LinkedIn page, CEO Mark Gerhard announced that more staff are being made redundant. Over the past few years, the games industry has gone through one of the most difficult periods in its history, Gerhard wrote. Many talented developers across the world have been affected by layoffs and restructuring. Unfortunately, today we have to share that Build a Rocket Boy is not immune to those pressures. Today we are announcing a further number of redundancies at the studio. This is a deeply painful decision. The people leaving our team have invested enormous talent, passion, and long hours into building what we believe in. Letting colleagues go is never something any leader wants to do, and I know the impact this will have on individuals, families, and our wider community. As leaders, we take responsibility for the outcome of our project and the decisions that follow. This is a good statement so far. Like, it's bad because you put out a bad game, and they're not necessarily saying that. They're kind of just, they're not throwing people under the bus. They're just like, hey, we're taking responsibility, and we have a bunch of people that we're letting go who poured themselves into this game. This stinks. It's like, yeah, okay. Let's see if things take a turn, Jan. At the same time, the launch period was affected by factors beyond normal operational challenges and a competitive environment. Gerhard then suggested that one of the main reasons behind the MindsEye commercial failure was, quote, criminal activity, including espionage and sabotage. Over the past months, we have been working with external partners and legal advisors to investigate the criminal activity that took place around our launch, he wrote. That work has taken far longer than expected, but it has now resulted in overwhelming evidence of organized espionage and corporate sabotage affecting MindsEye. Because this matter is moving toward prosecution, we cannot share the full details publicly yet. While the investigation has progressed, the team has worked relentlessly to evolve the game and to serve our player. Okay, they're going to get back to, don't worry, we're also spending some time working on the game while we investigate sabotage and espionage. And then, kind of talk about the game some more. Okay, to be fair, before we get started here, Jan, there was a developer who said, okay, I was working at Barb and was embedded maybe with web and Discord related stuff, Discord account linking, official server bot. I was myself targeted by a group of people that made a secret Discord server to dox and insult Build a Rocket Boy. This went as far as swatting my personal home in France. Even though I know Barb is not fully transparent on MindsEye launch, I know for a fact that criminal activity took place to target Build a Rocket Boy. So, Jan, something happened here.
Sure.
I think my issue, even though something probably happened here, is this idea that any of this criminal activity or corporate espionage or sabotage actually sabotaged the game. I think the game was bad because they made a bad game.
Yeah.
And I don't think like someone could go into the code and be like, I'm going to flip the make it bad switch. That seems very unlikely. Doesn't even sound like the person said that, like, doxed and harassed. I could see that happening. Whether or not I believe that came from Rockstar, which is the obvious implication here from what they're saying. They aren't saying that, but it's the obvious implication that Rockstar is trying to sabotage them because Leslie Benzies left and sued them and all this stuff. I think it's probably much more likely, and this is my opinion, I could be wrong, that it's crazy Rockstar Grand Theft Auto fans instead.
I did not get from any of that, Grubb, that he was implying that it was the company Rockstar doing that.
That's been that goes back to like the original times that they were talking about espionage and this stuff. It is, the idea here is that Leslie Benzies and Rockstar got into that legal battle, long protracted legal battle with a lot of money on the line. And so Rockstar is continuing to go after him and trying to undermine his success and hurt his company. And all of that's being funded or explicitly done by Rockstar. Again, this is what he's suggesting, but like it's pretty obvious that that's what he's going for.
Grubb, I think Rockstar's too busy busting their own unions to.
I mean, yes, exactly. Like I'll say that is like evidence that they are not afraid of doing stuff that is obviously illegal because they feel like they're untouchable. But you're right. I bet they have their own fish to fry. I don't know. They could do this. Rockstar's crazy. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I just think that using that as the reason that your game failed is a bad look no matter what. If this is happening, going out there and saying it still makes you look incompetent. It makes you look like, hey, you couldn't handle a secret Discord server, and your employees are now paying the price because you couldn't protect them. This is not a defense of your company. This continues to be a failure of Build a Rocket Boy.
Yeah, if anything, this is further showing how incompetent is probably too strong of a word, but like poor. How poor the Benz may have been at leading this studio post the Benz leaving Rockstar. And I'm not discounting at all how doxing and harassment can affect a workplace.
Oh, for sure.
We've worked with people.
Yeah, the people that did that should get in trouble. Yeah, yes, I'm glad that they're doing something about it.
Exactly, right? We've worked with people that have continuously been doxxed, continuously been harassed, and that takes a strong toll on someone. However, there are many measures that get put into place to protect the employee, to protect the team member, and also management at that point then thankfully steps in to protect that person so that is not affecting their overall work. To blame that as to why the game came out in the state and the way that it did, again, those two things don't match up for me, Grubb.
Yeah, I think like this is part of a wider story, the Leslie Bensley's side of this about some stuff I've seen going around on Blue Sky and stuff. People having this conversation of the world has changed, and the people that had success in the previous version of the video game development world are not necessarily, and sometimes because they come from that world, not ready for how things have changed. The way people spend time on gaming, the way they spend money on gaming, the increased cost, driving like increased competition for people's time and money. All of that stuff is like, okay, I think a lot of these people who had success previously are like, we're going to repeat what we did. It's going to work again.
Yeah.
And that has led to the high guards of the world collapsing immediately. And like Jade Raymond having to leave her studio. And these people that come from this old world, and it's like, the only thing that's common or that is stable about video games is it's always changing. And things are, and your games are taking so long from the world you started them in to the world you're releasing them in is so different that you could never have even prepared for this. So it's just like, I don't know what we do about that, but it feels like this is part of that story.
Yeah. And, gosh, do people, I'm still caught up, Grubb, on the fact that a lot of people, and the more I'm thinking about it, it would make sense that Rockstar could implement these very shady tactics to take down competition, especially if they've done that to their own employees. But for a company to stoop that low or to get to that point, I feel like they have taken the fact that they make and publish GTA too seriously.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All that stuff that we said about the old world and the new world and how things have changed also applies to games media. And it's like, oh yeah, we got to keep adapting and stay on top of stuff and try new things. And we are. So hopefully we can keep up. And if we can't, we got you guys, right? We'll keep doing things your way. All right, let's keep going here. PlayStation indie hit Kena Bridge of Spirits. That's the first game in the series. The new one just got announced at that recent PlayStation State of Play. That original one, Bridge of Spirits, is headed to Switch 2 soon. This is from Gavin Lane at Nintendo Life. Back in 2021, you may recall the release of Ember Labs celebrated Kena Bridge of Spirits on PS5. Perhaps you even played it on Sony's consoles or PC. This lovely-looking indie adventure was snapped up by PlayStation in a timed exclusivity deal on consoles until it came to Xbox in 2024. And it's coming to Switch 2 this spring. The Switch 2 version will come with the anniversary DLC and New Game Plus mode included. And then there's a trailer and all that stuff. Yeah, this is a game that PlayStation published. It's a first-party game because they published it. That's how it works. They're not involved in the release on Switch. They weren't involved in the release on Xbox. But it's like, oh yeah, this is one of those, what people call second-party situation, which just means an external third-party studio making a first-party deal to release a game exclusively for a time being, and then being able to take that game and do like what Kojima's done with Death Stranding and kind of put it out wherever else he wants afterward.
Yeah.
And it's, this is a game that makes a lot of sense on Switch. It probably was a bit too much to run on the original Switch. That's why it's now coming to Switch 2. Mm-hmm. But it's a good fit. It is a Zelda-light sort of game with a really strong Pixar-y visual style. Any interest in checking this one out on Switch 2? Did you play it originally on PlayStation?
I played the original one on the PlayStation, Grubb, and I liked it well enough. It has a very strong, distinct visual art style that is reminiscent of like those DreamWorks animated movies and Pixar, but very cool for it to come out on the Switch 2.
Yep. Yes, this is a cool thing. It's like I hope it runs really well. After Resident Evil, I have a high bar for ports to the Switch 2 now. All right, so let's see here. Last couple of stories. Hang on. I got this one first. Konami says Castlevania Belmont's Curse isn't going to be a roguelite game. So then, Jan, what the hell is it going to be? They kind of basically confirmed for the most part, what it's going to be here in this story from My Nintendo News. Konami has set the record straight when it comes to the recently announced Castlevania Belmont's Curse, and it won't be a roguelike or roguelite game. The company says that it's a 2D action exploration game like the previous games in the series, with vast maps for you to explore and the opportunity to slay all manners of vampire demons and the likes. Hey, that sounds like a Metroidvania. Yeah. That sounds like an Igavania or Symphony of the Night. Vast map, action exploration. They're not saying Metroidvania. They're not saying search action, but they're describing that for sure. Fantastic. This is from it's Motion Twin, and then the other team that worked on Dead Cells, the one that kind of spun off. They're kind of working in conjunction with one another, although one of the teams is the lead, and I can't remember which one. But they did an excellent job with like Castlevania stuff in their Metroidvania-light roguelite game. And so people are like, is that going to be one of those again, this Castlevania game? Fair to assume that. No, it's going to be much more like the classic, not the classic, but the still classic Metroidvania Castlevania games. That's music to my ears, Jan. You think that's the right choice for this game?
Yeah, 100% Grubb. Also, very, very cool for the Dead Cells team to make the Castlevania DLC and then just straight up make a new Castlevania. This was probably the thing I was most excited for after that state of play where they revealed this, just because like very distinct visual art style. And, because of working with you guys so much, I'm just hankering. For some more Metroidvanias.
Yeah, the other studio is Evil Empire, and I do believe it's Evil Empire leading the way. And then they said we are working with Motion Twin. They're providing insight and consultation, basically. And those are both the studios that did a lot of work on Dead Cells. Did all the work on Dead Cells. We get a lot of Metroidvanias now. We occasionally, actually quite frequently, get them from big companies. Nintendo still puts out Metroid Dread, and Sony just put out Sons of Sparta, which is just a straight up Metroidvania game.
Prince of Persia.
Okay, yeah, Prince of Persia, exactly right. And it's okay. We still get a lot of these, and honestly, the big publishers have been delivering ones that have been pretty good. Even Sons of Sparta is all right, despite it looking like trash. I don't like looking at it. And it's there's this is a space that I don't know how they do sales wise. They never seem to like blow up except for Silksong.
Yeah.
But I think the developers at these companies just want to make these games. And Konami, recognizing like there's a chance here to kind of get Castlevania back into the game realm after having a lot of success with it on Netflix. I'm glad that they are going for it and just doing the thing they probably should do first. I hope this eventually leads to a big new 3D Castlevania, kind of like a FromSoft game. That would be awesome. A new classic style Castlevania that plays like the NES or Super Nintendo games or Genesis games. That would be welcome. But this is the one to start with. And do you think it can act as a springboard, or does it kind of just be like a one-off?
I hope it acts as a springboard, Grubb. Like, I feel like the anime revitalized the interest in Castlevania and brought that to people's peepers for the first time in a while. I hope this game does the same thing. I know the Castlevania DLC was kind of more of like an homage and more of like, hey, long time fans of Castlevania, this one's for you. But I hope this game is able to bring in old and new alike.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep going here. The National Video Game Museum has acquired a mythical Nintendo PlayStation. This is from Damian McFerrin at Time Extension. Once upon a time, Nintendo and Sony were such close buddies that they decided to create a console together, the legendary Nintendo PlayStation. As we all know, the arrangement was short-lived, and Nintendo backed out of the deal. I think you could even say stabbed Sony in the back, leaving Sony feeling like a jilted lover. But it would arguably have the last laugh as it would continue development of the PlayStation on its own, eventually creating the famous brand we know and love today. A few years back, a prototype of the Nintendo PlayStation was auctioned off, and it's known that others exist in the wild. However, the National Video Game Museum has acquired what seems to be the earliest example of this particular piece of hardware. This is a quote now, this Sony MSF1 is the oldest known existing Nintendo PlayStation hardware artifact and is the original development system for Sony's planned Super Nintendo CD attachment, says the National Video Game Museum. It is the only known unit to exist. So people might be like, wasn't there that other one? Didn't the story talk about the other one? So that was much more close to a retail version of the Nintendo PlayStation. That was one that like you basically, it was probably a prototype for the final build of what would have ended up in stores. This is much more of a dev kit. You can kind of look at it. It's like a lot plainer. It just looks like a development kit. And they're saying it's like one of the early ones actually used for that purpose. So it has a lot of historical relevancy. I love this stuff. This is pretty cool. The video game, the video game museum, I think, is based down in Texas. I know that doesn't narrow it down. Texas is big, but I can't remember what city it's in. And it's like, oh yeah, that's the thing where it's like, eventually now I kind of want to get down there. This is the kind of thing I would want to eventually see in person at one point in my life, because it is mythical, Jan. It is the kind of thing where at the time it's like, they're going to do this. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Nintendo's going to have their CD attachment, just like the Sega CD, and they're working with Sony, the granddaddy of CDs on this. So it's going to be even better in all these ways. And it's like, eventually one day that just doesn't happen. And now Zelda's on the Philips CDI. You're like, what happened to Sony? And so getting a chance to go see that and live a part of that history would be pretty cool for me. What do you think of this?
I think it's very neat. I am a big fan, Grubb, of seeing this older tech of like, prototypes of things that never quite made it out. Even like specifically development stuff, right? Like, I would love it if more folks saw how intricate and convoluted the 3DS capture kit was, because it is not just a 3DS, but it is like tethered to something that looks like a CPAP machine that you then have to plug in to your actual capture like cards and everything. So more behind the scenes stuff like that, I am all for. I also like retro tech as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Saw one of those amazing, like all red Ferrari looking Sony computers a couple days ago, where it's like, oh, that was doing the rounds again. And it's like, a classic like 1980s computer or something like that. I'm like, man, if I had the money, I would get that. Like I would just put a real computer in there and I'd break it and stuff. So I probably shouldn't have it. All right, let's keep going here. Despite the lack of mass layoffs in Japan, game developers say their numbers are still reducing in, quote, less visible manners. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. A number of Japanese game developers have warned that while there haven't been reports of mass layoffs in Japan like there have been in the West, staff reductions are still taking place in less immediately visible ways. While the games industry has seen countless cases of mass layoffs across the West for the past few years, there have been significantly fewer examples of this happening in Japan, leading to speculation as to why things are so different there. Sega producer Tera Nakamura posted his views on the situation on Twitter, as originally spotted by Automaton, suggesting that mass layoffs aren't as widespread in the Japanese games industry because Japanese employment law, labor laws, makes it harder for companies to carry them out. Instead, Nakamura says the companies have been reducing costs by hiring fewer new staff. I think one of the reasons why Japanese companies, even when facing similar cost pressures, appear to have fewer visible layoffs is due to Japan's employment regulations, he said. However, difficulty in letting staff go simply transforms into not hiring in the first place. New graduate hiring quotas are shrinking, and the door for mid-career hires is narrowing. An era may come when it's even harder to get into a game company in Japan than it is now. So the idea is it's flipped on its head a little bit. Instead of hiring up 1 million people and then cutting 1 million jobs when you don't need them more, Japanese companies have to think very carefully if it's worth all of the effort to hire someone, because you're not going to be able to fire them or lay them off very, very easily or effectively at all. And so they just kind of hire much more slowly and build up slowly over time. Now, Jan, okay, so one side's not hiring as many people, and you can hear like the Chamber of Commerce's all around the United States going like, this is why regulation is bad. There are fewer jobs. But like, let's look at the reality on the ground. Like, what actually has this led to? To me, it has, like, if I were to like say which way of making games is more sustainable right now, the way things are done in Japan or the way things are done in the United States. And it feels like no contest. We know Japan's doing much better at handling these tough situations because the law has forced them to be more considerate.
Yes.
And, okay, so they can't hire as many people as quickly, and that, of course, is a con. Of course, that is a negative. But it seems like a fair price to pay if once you get the job, you're much more protected. And these companies have to think long and hard before making decisions because they know they're the ones that have to deal with the red tape. And you don't have to deal with the fact that there's no red tape and you could be thrown to the wolves at any second. So how do you feel about this?
I think I'm 100% with you, Grubb. Longevity and security go a very long way in terms of careers, right? And if you are somewhat guaranteed that at least you have the safety of being able to launch not just one game, maybe 2 games, Grubb, that will pay off in dividends of the initial struggle and slog it is to get in the door to begin with. Now, something I'm curious about, Grubb, that I don't know if if anyone listening has any insight. What is the indie scene in Japan like? How difficult is it to get to spin up a studio with younger talent or older talent that is perhaps left a studio or actually gotten laid off at a studio? What is that process like? Because if anything, the Western indie side is like not the only positive of game development, but something that like I enjoy seeing get cultivated, right? Versus like the big publisher AAA studios that will, treat their employees like dirt.
Yes, exactly. And it's my understanding is like the indie scene in Japan was kind of pretty derelict for a while. But there was a dearth of that sort of thing happening where just not the way people did things. And then over time, that has changed steadily, and it's grown. I'm not going to say rapidly, I don't know, but steadily. And things like, around the time of Tokyo Game Show, there is, I can't remember the name of it, but there is another sort of satellite event focused on indie games. James Melky was always involved in it for a long time. So maybe Bit Summit. It's Bit Summit. I wanted to say 8-Bit Summit, and that didn't sound right. Bit Summit. And that has become a space where it's like, you start seeing more and more people attending that every year to the point where now it's jam-packed, is my understanding, with people. And that's all about indie games in Japan. Cool. And the sort of pipeline to provide those studios with the resources they need to like get their games worldwide, that has grown up over time where, 8-4 has shown a lot of those studios how to like, hey, we could translate your games into English and get it put out around the world, and we can help you with that. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's happened more frequently. And now these studios see a pathway to doing that. And so that encourages even more people to go and start their indie studios. Okay. I think, there was a time when some of those bigger Japanese creators at the publishers were seeing Kickstarter as their sort of pathway to doing that. And that trend is obviously over now. A lot of them have like gone back to big publishers. But then there was another recent sort of exodus of like, hey, go start your own studio under Nexon or under NetEase. It's one of those. I think it might be NetEase. And now that has already been like running into a wall because NetEase has lost interest in these studios that it still owns, has started. And like, you could put out the games yourself if you want. Okay. So I think that might lead to like the guys at the guy that was at RGG. He might go back and start his own studio again if the one he has under NetEase right now collapses.
Got it.
Yeah. Overall, though, it feels like, this is the kind of thing where people are hurting across the board, no matter what, and it manifests in different ways. I think if we are looking for what can we do about it to mitigate the most damage from stuff like this, it's like, I think Japan has done that somewhat. It's not perfect. Their work culture is, like ours. It's about pounding people into perfect employees so they work constantly. But they've done something at least to protect employees, and that has manifested in some positive ways. And the evidence based on the games that they're putting out feels like, they have found some way to be somewhat more sustainable. Yeah. Cool.
Employee protection. What?
It's not just a foreign concept. It's an alien concept to me. Yeah. It feels like from another world. Okay, next story, and the final one I have here. Female players are an overlooked opportunity for growth, and the industry research firm says, this is from Chris Scullion at VGC, the games industry is overlooking potential growth by not fully accommodating female players, according to new research by Ampere Analysis. Basically, they looked at it, and they're like, hey, there are a huge number of female players, around 922 million. But that is 93 million less than men, and when we look at hobbies and activities by gender generally speaking, typically a similar number of these of people in genders between these two genders like to participate in these activities at a similar rate. So what's happened here? And they kind of point to, hey, when you look at mobile and a handful of other places, women show up a lot to these video games just like anyone else does. And it's in these console and PC spaces where they've either been gatekept or harassed out or any number of other things, or they've obviously not been catered to. In fact, they've the exact opposite of their likes and interests have been catered to, and so they felt naturally pushed out. And that was a missed opportunity, and it's shown up in a huge amount of money that these companies that could have appealed to them and did not missed out on. Do you think that's something that can be repaired, Jan? Or because I just can't imagine a world where Xbox suddenly figures that out, right?
Sorry, Grubb. Just this whole story is just kind of stun-locking me of like, yes, no shit. Of course.
Yeah.
You make games that appeal to people, they will show up. You make games that appeal to women, they will show up. But it is a speaking from our side, it is a big challenge to create content, to make things, to attract that audience, and not just attract that audience, but to sustain that audience and grow that audience. Is that something that a big publisher like Xbox will be able to do? I'm not so sure. I feel like they have their eggs in so many different baskets that they didn't know that what a basket was, that's going to be a challenge. And I feel like that is something that is easier to address and attack on different scales than from like an Xbox or a big PlayStation side.
Yep. It's the kind of thing where they are always concerned about risk mitigation, and so that leads them to naturally go to safe havens where they've seen success before, and that's the kind of stuff where that actually gets greenlighted, especially as they understand these days a big game can cost anywhere from $50 million to $250 million, more than that even. And when they're spending that much money, they're like, well, who are the kinds of people that spend money on our games? And they see the things about the people that spent money on their games that have previously been targeted at men. And so it's just easy for them to greenlight those projects again and again and again. And it's and now the space feels like it's not welcoming, and
totally.
it's hard to do much about that. Now we got like stuff like Pocopia that is appealing to everybody on Earth, and it's going to be obvious that is going to succeed largely because anyone can be happy playing that. And that's not to say that the games have to be like that to appeal to women. It's like Resident Evil 9, I think, is also appealing to a wide audience of like every kind of player. And a similar thing is happening there where it's getting huge success because everyone's showing up for Leon, mostly for Leon. And I get that. Of course, we all get that.
Yeah.
You're right. Mostly this is like no shit. And it's, are people going to do something about it now? Probably not.
Right. That's the other aspect of this, Grubb, is like, okay, well, what are you going to do then? Because it's not like some of these big studios will even do, will have any proper protections of when a game winds up having a female protagonist. It's not like that they wind up supporting the female talent behind like the voice cast or whatever, or even like front-facing female developers or producers on a game, right? It kind of feels like they're hung to dry. And Grubb, I think you said it best. Like the vibe is kind of like Garbo from the outside looking in. So why would you even want to go in to begin with?
Right. It's. I mean, you have to spend so much money to just begin participating. It's hard to justify. And it's like, that's where a couple of good games pushes the switch and gets it into a wider audience's hands. And okay, you can build on that, but I don't blame anyone who is sitting on the sideline being like, I really do like these games, and I want to try to play some more complex games than what I have on my phone. What can I do? And it's like, oh man, $500 for a Switch 2 or $450, and then have to buy a game. It's a lot. Do I want to deal with that space? And it's so easy just to say no.
Like I have a lot of female friends, and that's where I'm going to end the sentence. No, I'm just kidding. I have a lot of female friends that enjoy playing Valorant, enjoy playing Overwatch 2, other character shooters like that. But the second that they are even perceived as a female online, they just receive so much unnecessary grief for no reason. other than the fact that like they had
from piss babies. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
like,
the reason. Yeah.
Stupid little piss babies online that need.
Insecurity. It's like the insecurity coming out, and it's really the only reason that anyone's ever yelled at a woman online for playing a video game. It's because the guy on the other side of that microphone is deeply, deeply insecure.
Can I name 100 women? No, I'm sorry.
Of course not. That's crazy. People need to stop being absurd.
I could name 101.
All right, that does it for the headlines. I will get on to what's next, which is the poll question from yesterday. Let's go ahead and refresh the results, make sure that we are up to date on what y'all had to say. Let's see, I have it right here. How many PlayStation games have you purchased for PC? Your options were 0, 1, 2, 3, or more. 58% said 0. 12% said 1. 12% said 2. 18% said 3 or more. And say, okay, so there are those hardcore that are showing up for a lot of these games. I bet that 18% number, which this is our audience, 4,000 votes, but these are people who are very into games. So maybe you would want that 18% number, the whales, to sort of be a little bit higher to justify this. And if it's like, more than half of people that are super into games are not buying these games on PC, and it's largely probably because they already played them on PlayStation, but they already played them on PlayStation, and you get huge benefits when you put your games out there. So Sony's decision to sort of cut back from there begins to make sense when I look at something like this.
Yeah.
Which, again, not scientific.
The thing, if PlayStation winds up, I mean, they said they were going to refocus and just do that. I hear something on your side.
Yeah, I know. I went to another tab, and it's playing something. I'm going to close that instead. Sorry about that.
No, it's no worries.
Stupid computer.
God. The part that I'm going to be bummed out about is that if a game like Soros doesn't release on PC, I won't be able to just like pick up and play it. I have to go set up the PS5 and detangle it from my capture setup and everything.
Right.
Because
I have the same thought.
I don't know why, Grubb. I've been wanting to play Returnal lately, and I didn't get to play. I didn't play too much of it.
I'll play Returnal with you. Let's do some multiplayer Returnal.
Well,
that'd be great.
Yeah, let's return to Returnal.
I like that good video game. Please stop yelling at me about it. No one yells at me about it, to be fair. All right, that was the last poll question. We have another poll question. Let's do that right now. Where are you at with Crimson Desert? Your options are, I'm getting it. I need to see more of it. I don't know what that is, and not for me. Those are your options. Go ahead and vote on that. We'll get the results, talk about it on tomorrow's show as we wrap up the week. That's also your reminder. Get into giantbomb.com, scroll down. You'll see a vote here button. Vote for your game for the Bomb 12. We're going to wrap the game up with that list of the 12 games that really matter to people who are really playing video games, and I want to get your responses in there so we can have the most accurate Bomb 12 ever. All right. Jan, what's happening on the website?
Later today, we have voicemail dump truck. And for folks that don't remember, the dump truck has been moved up an hour to accommodate for Marry Me Tomodachi. That's right. The internet's best dating game show is back up online today. And then tomorrow's a packed day because we got KMS Mornings. Some of the crew's going to try and do a multiplayer Pacopia stream. We're going to dip into Marathon for UPF. And then Mikey's going to end the day and the week by doing his second launch day stream of this week with Pacopia from the very start. I'm so excited for more people to get their hands on Pacopia because it is such a silly, goofy game.
You're out on assignment when we're doing that multiplayer stream, but... Yes. If you happen to find yourself with your Switch 2 and you can just hop on from like a bus station or something, you can like join us or something in multiplayer. And I just want to hang out in that world with you. I started playing it, Jan. It's got something going on. It's doing some stuff for me already.
I don't want to spoil too much of the game, and I know that it's out now, so I don't have to like tiptoe around any embargo stuff.
It's so silly.
But like I'm having as serious of a conversation as you can have in the game, right?
Okay.
And then, like, because the Pokemon are just roaming around as you are having these conversations, I'm talking to the very important character that you meet at the beginning of the game, and then there's just like a Hitmonlee, a Hitmonchamp, and then a Bellsprout, and then an Oddish just hanging out on a bed in the background. Meanwhile, there's like a Heracross and a pincer just like shoot angry at each other.
Hell yeah.
It is it's yeah. Folks, if you're still on the fence after reading all the reviews that have come out, definitely check out all the Pocopia stuff we'll be putting out tomorrow.
Yep, look out for that. I've been doing the tutorial, everybody, so I'll be ready for that for the multiplayer stream. Look out for that after Game S mornings tomorrow. Okay, yeah, man. As soon as I was like, hey, okay, go knock down that tree or knock an apple out of that tree. I'm like, well, how do I do that? And it's like, oh, you just headbutt the tree. Game of the year.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Just so amazing. I love this Ditto so much. All right, that's going to do it, everybody. We've done all the things we have to do, so what I'm going to do now is thank Jan Ochoa for hanging out with me and talking about video games, man. I appreciate it.
It's the only way to start a Thursday, Grubb.
Thank you all for watching and listening. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.